After bumming out some of my viewers with my serious preview series with, it's time to return to the roots, which means wowing you with another unexpected and detrimentally subversive video on something you don't really care about. But remember, for me, it's not about the game, it's about the journey and memes and all that crap. In 2015, when Souls-like was still a novelty, craving for more Souls, I had to go back in time and play Kingsfield and Shadow Tower games. The atmosphere in these is still impeccable and admirable, even more in hindsight, after playing modern Souls-like. Looking for more of the same, which you won't really find by the way, I learned about hungry ghosts, which in order to pull one over on the, I'm going to refer to it as The Last of Us from now on.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
The Last of Us has very little in common with From Software Souls' predecessors and is in fact a survival horror PS2 game that never got translated or released in the West because
fuck you, you filthy gaijin!
Oddly enough, various individuals were trying to translate this game cause it's apparently quite good, but nobody finished the job, so yeah, the only way to enjoy this game is by learning to navigate through moon runes or using guides. Now, a lunar linguist I am not, and guides are for zoomers and girls. However, I am a seasoned veteran who wasted more than half of his life playing video games, so I welcome the challenge. So without further ado, Mr. Magoo.
How old are you?
Let's just start and see how far I can get before giving up, and if Sony was actually doing us a favor by keeping The Last of Us at bay.
Hold it!
But first, a bit of backstory. The famished specter of The Last of Us was developed by Deep Space Incorporated, which was founded by Tokuro Fujiwara, who worked as the main director and producer on this game. If you have never heard of this guy, it means that you are a pleb, but I don't blame you. He was making games even before my time. There are at least 50 high-profile games attached to his name that were made during the NES and SNES era. He is credited as the general producer of the original Resident Evil, and he also directed and produced Tomba 1 and 2, the games best known for this moment.
I would really prefer if you would be quiet. But yes, you are correct.
Moving into the 6th generation, now as a founder of Deep Space, he was behind the very first PS2 survival horror exclusive, The Extermination, which is a game about a thing from deep space that's actually a better The Thing game than the game The Thing. But the only reason people heard of it was because it was written and designed by Swery, a poor man's Hideo Kojima, who directed the cult classic Deadly Premonition. Swery also worked on Tomba 2 as a designer. Small world. The only other thing that came from deep space was The Last of Us. So the game starts. Actually, before it even starts, you are greeted by this biblically accurate tome. How do I spell Vnugo in Japanese? Doesn't seem possible, so I will just enter some random unrelated symbols. After you enter your name in this too spooky for you book, you hop on the boat and meet with a Japanese Charon, who starts asking very personal penis-related questions. Or does he? Now you might think that the story is impossible to follow and that you are missing out for obvious reasons. Listen, amigo, truly great games are still engaging even if you skip every single cutscene. Also, real chads can create their own context just from the situation alone. So with that in mind, the basic premise is as follows. Before he was reincarnated as a female Syrian refugee who immigrated to France and became a palliative care nurse, Jesus Christ had to go through Japanese hell to find Osamu Tezuka, the father of anime, and try to get him out in order to send him back in time to kill his younger self, so he can prevent his noble art deviating into infectious atrocity that pollutes preteen minds and thus saving the humankind at least for another 2000 years or so. Japanese Charon takes Jesus across the Japanese River of Styx to the deepest part of Japanese hell where Tezuka Senpai San-sama resides. So the game finally starts and you realize two things. A. Unlike most of the survival horror titles, the game is entirely from the first-person point of view, which is awesome, and B. You can't control the POV with the right analog stick, and the controls are horrible. Listen, I've been playing games for almost 25 years now, and that should tell you something. No, not that I'm a friendless loser who wasted his best years on video games. No. The accumulated experience should add gravitas to the following statement. Hungary, the Last of United States, has unironically one of the worst controls I have ever seen in a video game in my entire life. I am not exaggerating at all. In fact, I believe that the reason why this game never got translated in the West is that it happens to be a Japanese government-funded top-secret project designed to find especially gifted individuals who can operate and maneuver a nuclear suicide torpedo bomber hidden in the Pacific. This game will indeed reaffirm your belief in our Christian Lord and Savior, because just trying to move will make you yell out loud, "Jesus Christ!" and "Oh God!" every few minutes. Let me try and explain why. Okay, no right analog stick camera movement, so you might think, fine, it controls just like Kingsfield, right? Using R2 and L2 to look up or down. Nope. You hold L1 to look freely, while you can center the camera by pressing the R1. At first, this doesn't seem so bad because you can strafe with trigger buttons. The problem arises when you realize that you attack with the right analog stick. Jesus Christ, why? In order to impale something or someone with your beautiful giant spear, you need to pull the right analog stick back and then thrust forward. But the free look on L1 is slow and impossible to use while moving. You are also supposed to hold X if you want to move out of the way or run faster, while strafing with trigger buttons. Go ahead, try tilting the right analog stick while holding X. Here in this room, hitting stationary stuff is easy to get accustomed to, but what happens when you encounter something that's moving fairly fast or flying up and down, like a hungry Abby from The Last of Us? Another interesting and unique quirk is that you must grab every single individual object by pressing the right stick to extend your arm.
But why?
In fact, this entire game consists of you collecting resources and notes, which means that yes, every single time. First, you must confirm that you wanna pick up the item and then stretch your hand very slowly. Jesus Christ, please mate, just grab the hacking note. This game is the Dark Souls of slowness. Just take a look at how long it takes to unlock a simple door and then open it. Yes, the legendary producer and developer, Tokuro Fujiwara, thought it would be very suspenseful if a ghost can grab your arm while picking up something or opening the door. Now, suspenseful is not a word I would use to describe this. I think dreadful is more appropriate, because I could feel my soul making a little panicky scream every time I saw something on the ground. Oh my god, look how many items are on the floor. After getting familiarized with controls, you tell Karen, Japanese Karen, that you are ready, so you step outside and the game finally starts. This is where you encounter your first The Last of Us 2 enemy, Abby. What the fuck is this? He looks so goofy! With those big eyes, he looks like a ghost of Abe from Abe's Odyssey. For those of you who don't know, hungry ghosts is a Buddhist term for wild undead creatures that means exactly what it says. Ghosts driven by animalistic cravings who are cursed to roam the world for their greedy past deeds. In Japanese Buddhism, there are two types, the Gaki and Jinkikikiriki. The first one craves literally anything, while the latter craves and eats human corpses. It's an interesting, funny read if you care, so Google it. Anyway, I am goofing around, but from what I've seen, somewhat dated mechanics and quirks aside, I genuinely think that this game is probably one of the best classic survival horror games ever made. Rough around the edges now in 2024, but back in 2003, this game had the potential to be a system seller. Back then, it was okay to be a bit slow. It takes a bit to get used to the pace, but after that, it's incredibly engaging and remarkably deep. First-person view is able to provide an astounding amount of details and secrets hidden in plain sight. Almost everything you see is interactable, and not only can Jesus comment on it, but he can probably impale it with his holy spear as well and see something happen. The encounters are suspenseful and the environment is remarkably detailed for a PS2 title. The game works very well on a micro level, where every single room is like one giant puzzle with plenty of small objectives that impact the gameplay in some way. This room where you meet the first boss is a very cool example. You can cut the rope and cause the hanged woman to burn, or destroy the barrel, which will spill the oil and burn her while hanging. Or you can extinguish the fire and talk to her. In all three cases, you end up fighting her, but something else has been affected. Nowadays, we get at least 10 first-person horror games a week, and yet I would rather play The Last of Us because of the talent, subtlety, and the actual forethought and the game design logic behind it. There are at least 6 million Amnesia ripoffs, yet nobody has figured out how to make the moment-to-moment gameplay in these games even remotely interesting. But that's a topic for some other time. While I laughed at the first enemy ghosts being goofy, there are some genuinely disturbing ones, and the horror is more similar to the Resident Evil, which means it leans on the mechanical rather than the psychological aspect. Everything in this game wants to eat you, almost like they are hungry or something. NPC ghosts that you can talk to are way scarier than the enemies. I mean, imagine meeting this guy in an alleyway. I bitched about the controls, but here's the thing. In these old games, it's not that they didn't know better, it's that they purposely chose a certain system because they thought it worked best for what they were trying to do. Now, whether you should use controls to make the game harder is up for debate, but it does create a unique experience, and more importantly, believe it or not, after 10 hours I adjusted to this. It encourages a careful approach with a lot of positioning and spatial awareness, and you can get used to it. Granted, this doesn't mean much. You can get used to anal sex, but it's still a bit shitty and you are still being fucked in the ass. And finally, if you are not yet sold on The Last of Us, here is what makes it truly amazing. You see, the game has something that the developers call the cause and effect system, hidden within the mechanics. Basically, every gameplay decision you make affects every facet of every other fucking thing. It's almost too much to deal with. For example, if you approach it like any other game, destroying stuff, killing enemies and picking up everything you find along the way, at best you will get the worst ending. The game wants you to stop and think and re-examine the clues you are given and what you know about the world before you interact with something or someone. Seriously, it's apparently so deep that even people who played it can't provide an answer if you stray away from the path of the one poorly written guide on game facts. There's a certain degree of random drops and permanent decisions that you won't even know that you've made by overseeing something. There are at least 5 different checks I found that can end your game prematurely with a bad ending within the first 30 minutes. There are specific requirements you need to fulfill before you kill the first boss in order to actually progress the game as intended. An NPC ghost might ask for an item you collected, but just because it's his, it doesn't mean you should give it to him. All of that begs the obvious question. Is the game actually playable without knowing Japanese, if you don't care about the story? Well, yes and no. Like I said, the game has a bad ending that you can get locked into if you don't know what you are doing, and it happened to me twice. Funnily enough, the game drops constant hints and then deducts your score for actually taking them. It will give you an opportunity to choose whether you want an item or you want a hint. So, in a way, the game wants to be played without actually reading the hints, and I admit it's esoteric and fun if you give it your own context. But you do need at least some basic information so you don't end up with the same outcome after the first boss. I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, I just ended up with the same ending. That being said, good or bad, as far as I'm concerned, the game is like Rihanna after her encounter with Chris Brown. Eventually, through trial and error, I figured out the way to continue, but I realized that I was doing myself a disservice because the game is unique and it needs to be played properly, especially since you can add some quality of life improvements through emulation. Which brings me to the following and the main reason I made this vid. You see, I've noticed a certain trend where various translation people would announce their presence, make Discord groups, post some translated screenshots or a YouTube vid, and then nothing happens for a couple of years before they would declare that they've given up. Apparently this happens in manga circles a lot. Certain groups would claim some source material, and because of that a manga would remain untranslated for an extended period of time. But on topic with The Last of Us, just a few weeks ago this guy said he was giving up. Look at this! Half of the game is already translated.
Nani?
Half of the game is already... And this was 18 months ago? And now you're giving up? Fuck you, man! At least release your work so others can continue. Nobody is saying you should do it for free. Hell, set up the Patreon and I will... Well, someone will donate a pesos or two. Oh wait, you did release it, but to some other group and you won't make it public. How about you follow Gaki's example and eat shit? If you research The Last of Us English translation, you can trace the literal timeline of all of this idiocy. First, there was the guy on the Sword and the Moonlight's forum who said he was translating it. Then, someone else claimed that they are continuing his work and asked for advice and tools on the ROM hacking forums back in 2018. Then this new guy changed his username and edited posts. Suspicious. Then there was the guy I mentioned who said that he translated half of it. Now, the game is apparently being translated by this Discord group, and whether they are translating it for real or pulling some kind of a scam, I don't care. I just want the fucking game translated, so if this vid reached you and you want an opportunity to enjoy this game, or see me make a legit review and find out if Jesus stopped the conception of anime, go find these people, threaten them with violence, harass them until they complete it, or help them out somehow. After all this time and all these people involved, there isn't a single half-translated demo of a 6-hour-long game? I asked for some ETA and someone said it would take at least another year. Are you fucking kidding me? In the year of our Lord, when AI can create video games, at least a year? How much fucking text is in this fucking game? Just provide the bot with enough info and ask him to write you the code. Okay, maybe it's not that simple, but I don't care. I want to play The Last of Us properly, god fucking damn it. Anyway, I wanted to do something simpler and shorter this time, because the next vid is going to be amazingly funny. I asked what I should do and this guy made a suggestion, so okay, Mr. Dr. Ketchup, you will get what you asked for. Me covering one of the greatest video games ever created. Thank you for watching, stay tuned.